Okay, let's start. Welcome all, by the way. In this session, we are talking about the effective UA strategies with the different leaders, with the different industry leaders, within their different approaches and the experiences. So please let me welcome first Naz from AppLovin, Burak from Masomo, and Ege from ShiftUp. And I think we're going to start with the data side. So what we are going to do that we try to explain some of the approaches from our side for you as well. So let's start with the data side. Okay, so maybe we can start with you, Naz. What you are thinking about, what are the most crucial metrics on your end regarding the UA process, in which phases, in which metrics you are using most of them?
Thank you for the question. Basically, data is crucial at every stage of your UA strategy and operations. And first and foremost, you should be setting up accurate tracking so as to make sure that you don't have any discrepancy or misinterpretations or miscalculations down the line, and and this should be done before starting any sort of UA activity. That being said, data collection necessitates working with a mobile measurement partner, an MMP of your choice, and integrating your ad network partners from the get-go, as well as passing post-install data so conversions can be attributed accurately down the line. And as for what metrics play an important role, let me just start with saying that there's no single KPI that can be used to determine the overall success of UA campaigns. So instead, developers focus on multiple KPIs, and this varies greatly from one app to the other. It just depends on the nature of your app. So the really basic ones we're all familiar with, installs per mil and click-through rates. These are especially important for measuring creative success and for making iterations on your creative. And then there's retention, of course, and it applies to everyone, and developers typically choose to look at this in different attribution windows. So whether it be 0, day 7, or longer-term retention. And then developers typically look at in-app purchases, conversion to in-app events, actually, not just purchases. And again, this depends on your app. For example, if your app monetizes heavily through in-app purchases, then you want to monitor conversion to unique purchasers, right? That's going to be an important metric for you. And as for cost per action, the action here also is something different for every app. And if your app, for instance, has a lot of level progressions in place, then you want to look at the cost per unit, cost per event for that particular event that takes place in your app. For instance, you could be looking at cost per level 90, if this makes sense for you as a proxy for retention and ROAS. And this is especially important if you are running campaigns that are optimized towards that event. And last, but definitely not the least, you have ROAS. And this could be segmented into in-app ROAS, as well as ad ROAS, and of course, total ROAS. And so here, if you happen to find a campaign that meets your ROAS goals and can deliver scale, then that's most likely where you want to invest heavily in. And so all these metrics are available on our dashboard so that you can monitor campaigns closely. And throughout the lifetime of campaigns, developers should always try to optimize for target KPIs so that they meet their goals, acquire quality users, and do so at the best prices.
Thank you.
Well said. I mean, I'm not going to mention anything different than you just said, but let me put it this way. First of all, whatever we do in UA, data is the core business that we need to take care of at the start of any actions that we take. Because otherwise, if you're not 100% sure what is going to be in like day 30 or day 60, but if the metrics are not like 100% accurate, there's no point of like looking at those numbers, right? First of all, you need to make sure, as marketers, like we need to make sure that 100% accurate data. Well, in the past few years, there has been a lot of changes in, especially on the IS part. Like we are not like 100% sure about the data, but there are some couple of ways that you can actually try and build upon that. That being said, when it comes to UA metrics, what we do in Masomo in both of our games currently is that we basically, I'm going to start with the creative part, obviously, because those are the first metrics that we'll look into. If the creative is successful, then you can actually earn the money. So let's start with the creative part. I would say CTRs, CPMs, are maybe the VCRs are the crucial metrics that we consider whether the creative is successful or not. After that, we come to the campaign level metrics, whether it's day 3, the cohort of data like day 3, day 7, up to date 150, depending on your retention, and that's where I would like to mention retention as well, because it all happens to retention. If you don't have enough retention, there's no point of looking at the higher date cohorts. And on top of these, you also mentioned about ad monetization metrics, and developers are also looking at the in-game metrics. But what I would like to mention is that, like in today's sessions, in the earlier sessions, Yiğit, our former colleague, has also mentioned, and Mr. Yavuz from the ASO session, they're all metrics that we need to take care of in terms of in collaboration with the product teams. It's not just the marketing team who's earning the money. The collaboration of the product and the marketing teams looking at these kind of metrics, because there are some metrics that the marketers are not aware of. For example, CCUs, engagement rates. These are the metrics that we also might have an eye on and actually work collaboratively. That's how I would put this answer of this question.
Yeah. It's really like a multidisciplinary and a multi-approaches thing that we are all looking at all the metrics within the different approaches, within different experiences and the disciplinary, I think,
Exactly.
right?
A lot of different areas in all other subjects.
Yeah. Anything to add?
Well, most of our clients are pretty tight on our goals. We pretty much track post-install metrics, and like in today's economy, I mean, there's rare amount of clients that want to like keep the gates open and totally focus on the install. So we're pretty much like having into account primarily ROAS, because obviously we're working with mostly subscription-based apps. So yeah, post-install metrics are really important for us, especially like in-app event, as Naz mentioned, and ROAS, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. And the second question, though, in trending genres, through your experiences, which platform, which genre, maybe where and when we should focus and use it? What do you think?
Let me start this one.
Yeah, sure.
As Masomo, we have two games. It's in the sports genre, maybe you've not heard of, but Headball 2 and Basketball Arena. Headball 2 is our football game, which is like when you ask about which geo, which platform, I mean, geo, when it comes to football, it's all around the world, to be honest. But from other types of sports like basketball, we have to narrow it down to USA, mostly. Canada, New Zealand, Australia are the main geographies that we actually invest in, because there's a lot more demand than the other countries that we see. And there are also some special countries like in Europe, like tier 1 countries, we call them, and we might sometimes actually invest there depending on the seasonality and the tournaments that goes on throughout the year. When it comes to where and when, that really differentiates from game to game, and some in common as well. But let me put it this way. We all invest in Google. We always start with Google and then move on to Facebook. It wasn't like that before. After the post-ATT and all the IDFA changes, social media was the highest spent for many years, for not just for gaming, for other verticals as well. But Google is like the main platform that we spend on at the moment. On top of this, obviously, Meta products, any platform that on Meta, we invest on heavily. We're trying to invest on, let's say. On top of this, in the past couple of years, TikTok has been growing rapidly, so it's one of the platforms that we started to invest. Other than ASA and is coming up, we try to invest in other DSPs in the programmatic area. Not that successful as the ones that we're currently doing, but I would say Wangle, Moloko, those are the ones that I actually tried before. And some ISOs as well. That's it from myself.
Thank you. So I could add a few things on trending genres. So on our platform, a trending genres that we've recently seen is hybrid casual games. And it's evolved as a result of developers seeking diversification in their portfolio to get better retention, engagement, and ultimately a higher lifetime value. So this is not a genre that's just popped out of nowhere, not an alien one for sure. It's just an evolution from the established genres of casual games and hyper-casual games. And like to define it on very simple terms, it's basically hyper-casual gameplay, so very easy, coupled with simplified casual features. And the biggest upside here is that you're able to acquire users at cheap hyper-casual CPIs, yet monetize them as casual users with longer lifetimes. These apps also have hybrid monetization. They tend to have this, but the split really changes. So they monetize via in-app purchases as well as ad revenue. So what are these simplified features of casual games that we're looking at? So first and foremost, socials. Everyone likes playing with their friends, even if it's like teaming up with them or competing against them. So that's one. And another one that seems to work really well is adding a competition aspect to the game. So tournaments, leaderboards, and such. Keeps the users engaged and extends the lifetime of users. And one that we see often nowadays is adding a meta game to the game itself. And the way it works is that while you play the main game, you collect items, for instance, complete missions. And with the earnings from these missions or with the items, you can build like a house, for example, on the side. And this also serves really well towards improving engagement. And again, there's customization you can add for characters and the settings, or adding a strong storyline definitely contributes. All in all, I think the best part here is being able to apply your skill set from developing other genres and blending it with other types of games, and you end up with things where you can get really creative, something original, right? And another benefit of these games having hybrid monetization is that, if you have a hyper-casual game, for instance, your main lever in scaling is ad ROAS campaigns, right? At least on our platform. However, when you have hybrid monetization in place, you can experiment with different campaign types, cost per event, for example, or cost per purchases, IAP ROAS campaigns. Now we have, as of last year, blended ROAS campaigns, which optimize towards a total of IAP plus ad revenue. And for campaign types where you're trying to acquire purchasers, then you can choose to target high-value audiences, for instance, to increase your conversion rates. And so there's a lot of room to get creative, and that seems to be an excited genre for our publishers that we see on the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything to add?
Well, nothing for this one, I think.
Okay, I think, you are just one little app, maybe as all growth persons, I think we are just clustering all the, the genres, networks, platforms for each and every time. That's the main, the maybe way to find the optimum for each time. So let's jump into the third one. So I think we all, they're making some time for a while in there too. So Google Play versus the App Store, through your workflow, which one is your prior? How you manage the UA process, syncing with the ASO? Maybe we can start with you, Hege.
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't think one is more important than the other. If you have apps on both platforms, I don't see why you shouldn't prioritize both of them for the ASO. Given that the ASO App Store optimization, your landing page is your landing page. Finally, your product page and your store listings are your landing pages, and it really can make or break your browse traffic or non-branded search traffic. It's really important, and also your referred traffic too. If people can't make sense out of your screenshots or your description or your title or your subtitle, all your user acquisition efforts is going to go in the trash. I mean, for some extent, at the very least. Therefore, I don't see like why you shouldn't prioritize both platforms and keep those up to date. And we also support ASO with Apple Search Ads. It's really a strong channel where when a certain keyword is out of your reach and you really want to show yourself in that category or in that keyword type or search query, you really supplement your organic side with Apple Search Ads, and that's when Apple Search Ads comes in really handy. You can measure everything really well. It's pretty much demand capturing. You can pretty much boost your also organic ranking, keyword rankings with like bidding on certain keywords. So it's really working in a harmony, ASO and ASA. I'd say, yeah, we're pretty much using all our efforts on both sides.
I can add something on top of that. For example, you just mentioned about the organic traffic, like we don't want to lose that, but we need to make sure we need to have an eye on the competitors as well. What kind of keywords they are bidding, if they are bidding on our keywords as well. We need to maintain our position on those rankings, otherwise our rankings will go down.
Sure.
In order to protect that, we've tried some competitor campaigns as well, and some CPPs too. The landing page is like the first awareness point of your brand, of your product. That's why you mentioned it's the landing page actually in the desktop version, but that's how it starts. So if you don't have any tests or if you don't have any data on like what screenshot is working, which icon is better for increase my traffic, you're not in the track of everything. So I think, and that's what we're doing in Masomo, you have to have constant tests on monthly basis. And this is not just for a single country or a single geo, but it has to be in order, it has to be within a roadmap. You need to keep constantly testing. And the second part of this question is, I think it's very important, how do UA process sync with this? I mean, basically we start with the ones we actually promote. I mean, I'm not going to spend some time on a country that we don't invest on, but rather than that, we actually try to have our tests on the major countries that we invest on the UA side. By doing so, that's why you actually see the paid traffic and organic traffic growing in sync with each other. I think that's one of the things that we need to mention in this question.
Yeah.
And then, like, maybe we can also mention like custom product pages, which is
Exactly.
the new addition. It's basically like a customizable landing page for you to use in all of your app marketing efforts. So it's basically a new landing page for I don't know, a certain channel of users specifically designed for them, specifically capture their attention and then specifically convert them. It's really like, it's come in handy for some of our clients. We've seen close to like 20% increase in impression to install rate for a really big productivity app in the United States, for example. So custom product pages can really serve as a actual landing page that you can try and test on and improve your US process.
Yeah.
And the creatives that we use there is kind of important as well. I mean, they have
Definitely.
to be synced with each other. Otherwise, if they see the creative, it might not be on the same one in the ASO part or the store part. So if you can sync that, and if you can align with that with the product events and all the seasonal passes, it actually works. That's
Perfect store.
Yeah, absolutely. I think regarding your CPP suggestion through the question again, I think that's why across all the ad networks, just suggestion about the CPP campaigns, and through that we can see the impressions or the install rate getting higher in there. I think we're going to see much more CPP campaigns through the ad networks. They're going to, I think, promote it on lately, then we can use it for UA process.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump into I think we just dig into the CPP parts a little bit more, but what do you think all about the creative process, like the CPP that you mentioned again, and the product pages, localizations? What are the effects on your end and regarding your experiences?
I think, I mean, ASO is one of the core business parts of our business, and then creative process is really important for us, and we do take creative testing really seriously, and I cannot dwell on it enough here that like how important it is. And recently it's been, I think, a year now, Apple also pushed forward their testing product, which I'm going to say without hesitation is not really working for a lot of developers, I think, because it's really limited to your releases. It's going to halt itself once in a while. It's really bugged, and it doesn't really help developers, I think. But on the Android side, flip side, we're seeing great success with essentially starting with maybe a design refresh for a lot of clients, because maybe there's a great app, but if you're not showcasing your key value propositions well in your screenshots, for example, if the font size is not big enough, or if you're not showcasing your UI well, or if you're not like emphasizing what you're actually providing to the users, it's really gonna hurt you, and you're spending a lot of money for actually what then, right? So you really have to land on a champion version of your screenshots, and then start iterative testing with, adding different stuff, maybe popping out some like important stuff from the UI, or, maybe making the headlines even bigger to capture the user's attention, or, maybe adding in some color or different backgrounds. So there's a lot of things to test out, but your screenshots being up to date and modern and testing out different things with iterative testing is really important, in my opinion. Also, if you're going to mention localization, I mean, if you have your app localized in a language, and then you don't have your store listing or product page localized in that language, I mean, it's really losing the low-hanging fruit there for yourself, because it's the easiest thing to localize your metadata or textual or screenshots. So it's really important for it to be accurate, because if you're localizing for Spanish and you're using the same localization for Mexico and Spain, good luck with that. So yeah, it's really important to be as accurate as it can be, and as localized on a country basis as it can be, I'd say. So yeah, maybe other panelists have something to add top of it.
Yeah, thanks for that. For creative optimization, basically our platform runs A/B testing automatically. All you need to do is you just add new creative sets. And what I mean by creative sets is typically just videos coupled with end cards. So you just add them, and what happens is that the system starts serving them in parallel to the existing top performing ads, right? And then it starts like measuring the results and comparing the performance. And typically it takes a couple of days to determine the winner. And once the winner is determined, then the system starts sending traffic more heavily to the new top performer, which is great because you don't have to put in manual efforts into optimizing creatives, don't have to go and pause a low performance, etc. But now where the work is required is, like again pointed out, iteration is key. Just iterate rigorously based on what the top creatives are, looking at metrics, of course. And we also recommend running creative refreshes or just uploading new creative every 2 weeks or so. But for hyper-casual titles, you could do so more frequently, and it will serve you well. And, I mentioned creative sets being videos coupled with end cards, right? As for what kind of end card you want to go for, depends on the genre. If it's a hyper-casual title, then you probably want to go for like a straight, standard, single interaction end card. We also call them playable-like end cards on our platform. And we found that hyper-casual viewers typically respond most to straight gameplay-based end cards. But on the casual side, there's more going on with the game, right? More aspects to the game. So there's more to test with, more to experiment with, and you can come up with more creative things. And we've seen that having a strong narrative, storyline definitely helps. And again, like Ege pointed out, localization is very important to do with the more casual titles. In terms of what kind of end cards you want to use, typically the top performance are multi-interaction playables, which are essentially just a resemblance of the gameplay itself. If they're engaging enough, they also perform well as standalone playables, meaning they're not coupled with videos. But again, to determine the best format, you just have to upload it to the system, sit back and relax, and you'll have the top performer and move forward with that one. And this is an exciting one for casual titles. We recently launched connected TV ads. For those of you who are not familiar, it's basically serving ads on devices that enable you to stream media, such as game consoles, connected devices, and smart TVs. And it's really cool to be serving actually like TV ads on these devices. There are a lot of best practices, but most importantly, in my opinion, is having really clear messaging, a really strong narrative. And, you know, there are certain tips that we found that work, such as, you know, having actual humans play with the app in the ads really helps with the conversions. And all guidelines and best practices aside, we've seen that creating memorable impressions in like strange and quirky ways can really help make these ads more engaging. And like I said, these connected TV ads require more effort. So our internal team, Spark Labs, is happy to help out our partners, publishers, to build engaging ads.
No, absolutely. Anything to add, Burak?
I'll make a general comment about the creative side because 50% of what we do in marketing is creative side.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously it's very important for us to decide on where and how we're going to spend the money, but what are we spending on? What is the customer is going to see in every single country or the localization part? You need to be really fast. You need to understand, you need to analyze your creative so well that you can actually put on top of it with the A/B test you guys just mentioned. And to do so, there are a couple of partners that we work with and some solutions that we developed in-house. What we do is that we actually, in order to be fast, if we need to open a company just like that in a couple of hours, you need those creatives ready. And we don't want people to work like 24/7 to be able to just create those campaigns in a couple of days. Rather than that, we just build a system. We call it the rendering project. It's actually rendering sorry for the misnaming. And we can actually create those creatives automatically in a couple of hours, which actually speeds up the process when we need to actually boost our UA activities. That being said, another important thing is that the creatives that you use, the elements are in there, should be replaceable. And you need to analyze which character, which superpower, which background is working well and bringing more revenue to your company, to your game. And after analyzing those, it's good to hear that there are a lot more A/B tests platforms out there, but people have been using Facebook A/B test panel forever, right? There are some, like TikTok is working on it. There are some other companies are already working on it, but sometimes the creatives that work on Facebook might not actually work on other platforms. That's why you need to change your creatives for that platform, which goes back to CPPs and all the creative changes, the alignment with the product and the people who are going to search for the name, but see different. You need to be in line with all those things. You need to arrange that so people, okay, I've seen this ad, but this wasn't the one that I was looking for. Let me just leave, and you lose the traffic. That is why I think for the creative parts, A/B tests are the crucial factor that you need to spend time on. Other than that, the elements that you use need to be analyzed in every aspect. So that you can actually, the A/B test will be according to the analysis, the insights that you found from those creative tests. I would put it this way, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key point is keep pushing the new things, especially on the creative side, right? Yeah. When you stop trying new things, new creatives regarding CPPs or the localization, that's how the campaigns start to die, I think. So the key point is pushing. I think the session is all about these topics, and I think these you know, the very incredible, you know, the add-up. So thanks for that. We would like to hear some questions. If you have though, we would be really happy to answer it. Regarding all of the questions and the topics, if you like to. By the way, we can switch to Turkish, if you feel though.
Yeah.
I think it was crystal clear, right? That's
I'm
what
sure
I
they have a lot
understood.
of questions, but like they can find us after
Yeah.
the session as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
absolutely.
are a lot of points that we haven't covered as well. The AI integration to creative,
Yeah.
AI integration to bidding optimizations.
Yeah.
Maybe we can discuss that in other sessions as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Where we find this.
Regarding the monetization, the other UA process that we haven't, you know, chance to point it out, something like that, please reach out via LinkedIn or via our mails. We would really be happy to answer it.
Or come and say hi in our
Yeah.
booth. Yeah, that'll be easier.
Yeah.
Thank
Would
you.
be good. Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Thanks,
you
everyone.
all.
Thanks for having us.
And future of Web3 platform. Our next session is integration